episode of the Dynasty Pros Devy Show. I am Tommy Harvey along with SC Romero and Andy Pham. Tonight we're going to be talking about Week 7 coming up. There are a few games that we want to discuss. That is coming up next. All right, guys. Tonight we're going to be talking about the upcoming Week 7 slate. There's a few games that we're wanting to highlight, but SC, go ahead and get us started with the question of the day.
Yeah, so the question was asking, what game do you want us to talk about some potential sleepers? And the game that won was going to be your Florida State versus Syracuse game. And one guy that I think's a sleeper, there's a lot of talent on this field this week with them. But I think Jaheim Bell, as a tight end, it's hard to find those tight ends that make a good run in the NFL, right? And so I think he just has potential to be something nice. He has some good athletic ability. He's not necessarily the fastest one you'll ever see, but he can find the hole. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he could definitely make the play and make the guy miss. He's a big body, and he's definitely a sleeper to watch, in your CFF, but even in your C2Cs when he comes into the league.
Yeah, he's not your typical tight end. He's more of an H-back type of guy. Very versatile, can actually take plays out of the backfield. Did that a lot at South Carolina also prior to transferring to Florida State. Another sleeper I'd like to mention for Florida State would be Destin Hill, wide receiver. Finally got on campus for them this year. After the last couple years of them waiting on him, finally got there, and he actually had I think was it last weekend, he actually had a catch for them. He could be a potential sleeper in this game if Syracuse wants to target in on Keon Coleman, and it looks like Johnny Wilson may be a little banged up also.
I'll go for someone on Syracuse. I'll go with tight end Dan Villari. He's filled in nicely with Gatson being out for the year. He's a sophomore, 6'4", 235 pounds. I was watching the game a couple of weeks ago, and he was being targeted. And he's actually a former quarterback, I believe. He threw a pass that I believe was completed for deep or something like that. But he's someone that's got some hidden potential as a sophomore.
Sure. All right. Well, how about we move on to the big one? Oregon at Washington. This is the big game of the day. Top 10 matchup. This may end up being the best game of the entire season. You got Bo Nix in Oregon going up against Michael Penix Jr. and Washington. Weapons all over the field for both teams. Devy assets all over the field for both teams. Where do we want to start here, SC?
I think you do talk about those quarterbacks, right? Those are two potential quarterbacks that are rising boards, and really this victory, if it's like a blowout victory or just a good 14-point victory, this could definitely elevate one of these quarterbacks in Bo Nix or Michael Penix to a Heisman potential, right? Especially if they go there and now they just finish off the rest of the season with some victories. I mean, it's gonna be huge for these quarterbacks to go out there and show out. Both teams are known to air it out. They have good wide receivers. You have Troy Flanker and Roma Dudze. You have everything you want in an exciting game for the Pac-12, and this is kind of like that closeout boom almost, so I think that's going to be a huge game for them, but the guys I think that are the X factors are going to be your running backs. Both running backs have 4 TDs on the season in Bucky Irvin and Dalen Johnson, so we know they're going to pass the ball. I think whichever running back necessarily can have the better game, or what team can have the better run game, could be the difference maker here, because it's going to be an air it out type of game. So whoever can just get those inches on the field there will make a huge difference for them.
I think as far as the running backs go, I think this is a game for Jordan James. I think this game in the second half, he'll come in, be that bigger back to kind of close it out, kind of eat up some clock. I think this is set to be a game for him. For Washington, this is a game for, Roma Dunze. This is a game for him to show out, to, show that he should be a top 3 to top 4 wide receiver in the class in a late first round, draft choice. I think he needs to step up in this game.
Yeah, you got Roma Dunze. Jalen McMillan should be back this week. Also, missed last week's game, kind of an undisclosed injury, but he should be back this weekend. Washington is littered with outside weapons that they're able to use. With those 2 wide receivers plus Bernard and Polk also. I think if this game turns into a shootout, I would probably favor Washington here, just because I think they have the more explosive offense. I think Oregon's probably the most balanced. Is probably the more balanced of the 2 offenses, though.
I feel for whatever reason, whenever Oregon plays Washington or Washington State, whether it's every other year, one of them has their number. So it's gonna be very interesting because Washington's kind of been the shadow, if you will, to Oregon and USC, and this is a solid year for them. That's like, hey, go out there and showcase, as you mentioned, the potential game of the day that Saturday. So, I mean, this is a huge game for them.
Yeah. All right. Our next game, pretty big one in the SEC, is Missouri at Kentucky. This game has really built quite a bit of steam over the past several weeks with both Missouri and Kentucky having decent seasons. Both only have 1 loss. Kentucky's coming off a pretty big time beat down by Georgia. But before that, they handled Florida well. Missouri hung in there with LSU for the most part last week. What do you guys see out of this game?
Something I'll be looking at is Devin Leary and how he can just play better, really. I was expecting a lot more out of him. You don't really see much out of Kentucky, but the way he's just formed, the way he can utilize the play and read the defenses, I haven't seen it as elegantly as I wanted to from him. So I think this is a big game because Missouri, I think they're going to end up shutting down that run, and they're not going to allow Ray Davis to go wild as we've seen a couple weeks ago. So this is going to be huge for Devin Leary to take control and take it back and say, look, even though we lost to Georgia, that's a national championship team, but that's not who we are. We're still a team that I had that leadership. This is my team, and I'm going to go out there and showcase it. He's definitely going to need something more from his wide receivers, and especially with Luther Burden. I mean, we kind of saw it when Burden went against Malik Neighbors. Maybe they have that competition level where it's like, okay, this is a big matchup. I need to step up my game here now. So Luther Burden is going to go out there and ball, but I think this is a game for Devin Leary to show himself, especially after a loss last week.
Yeah, I've got this game as one of the legs in my 16 game parlay. And I took the over 52.5 here. So hopefully this is an offensive game.
If Devin Leary is going to have a good game, Barian Brown needs to have a good game. He's someone that we've been waiting for him to explode. Last year, he was used kind of that short, schemed up gadgety type, kind of like a Luther Burden. This year with that new offense, he's been asked to run, a more diverse route tree, and he's done okay, but he hasn't exploded as we've expected or needed him to.
He's kind of struggling with the hands a little bit.
Yeah. So if Devin Leary is gonna, play a really good game, Barian Brown has to step up. Tavian Robinson has to step up. He's the one that's doing the short gadgety stuff this year. And then Dane Key, who had a good start, has been kind of tailed off the past couple of weeks. But for Missouri, I think Cody Schrader, he's coming off a great game last week against LSU. And I think, with all the receivers in this game, I think he's going to be that guy that's going to, help Missouri, try to eat up some clock, try to, slow it down. So it's not a, 52-48 type game.
I actually saw somebody pose this question earlier. It may have been on Discord. Brady Cook, is he turning into an NFL prospect now?
I don't buy it. I mean, you can take a chance on him. I'm not picking him up in the Devy league by any means. If you have him in a C2C, sure. But when I don't even necessarily think he's going to be drafted. If it is a day 3, 6, 7th round pick, I still have him there. I think this is more of a factor that Luther Burden's really good, and that's why Brady Cook's looking great, right? But it's not Brady Cook's a great potential NFL quarterback. I mean, he's someone he may get a start shine, where he just looks great one game, and then you're like, oh, we gotta go get him. But it's like, no, man, don't get fooled. I don't think he's there.
That new offense coordinator, came from Fresno State, where they ran that. It's a very friendly, quarterback friendly offense. The the reads are pretty simple and it's pretty easy. So that's why you're seeing him complete at 71%. But as far as making the throws, reading the defenses, I don't think it's there. I think he'll compile stats, and he might end up being a 5th, 6th round guy that gets a shot at being a backup, and then eventually maybe what happens. But I don't see at the next level.
Good points.
Could get lucky and go 49ers. We saw what they did with Brock Purdy, right? So maybe.
Yeah, but you were always able to see what Brock Purdy was able to do when he was at Iowa State. I see a little bit of versatility out of Cook with his ability to kind of stretch plays with his legs. I don't think he has an overly big arm, and is like you guys were saying. His ability to read the defense. I don't really see. I mean, he had one interception last weekend against LSU where Harold Perkins just kind of dropped back into the middle of the field and he threw it directly to him.
Perkins is a bad man, though.
Oh, he is. He is. He definitely is. All right, our next game, USC and Notre Dame. USC coming off that squeaker of a win against Arizona, going to South Bend. Notre Dame's looking to kind of get right here. They've lost a couple games already this year. This is a big-time rivalry game. I just see Caleb Williams doing whatever he wants to in this one. Struggled last week. I think he puts that behind him, and I think he absolutely dominates in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. To go on the flip side, I think it's a big game for Hartman. This is you're going against arguably the one of the top prospects we've seen in some time now. 101 pick if he goes to NFL draft, 101 in your Devy, your rookie drafts, all that kind of stuff. So this is an opportunity for Hartman to go toe to toe with him. This is an opportunity. I don't expect them to win it all, but again, like Shedeur did, you can't go out there and look bad when the spotlight is on you even more now, right? So this is opportunity for him. But this is also something where, the USC defense has struggled a lot. So maybe if they get that run game going with Audric Estime, then we may see some different game coming out of Hartman because that running game is something he could depend on. It's not just all focus on him. The games that he's looking bad, the defenses are shutting down this run with Estime, and they're having to just drive in the pressure, and it's getting to Hartman. So if he can allow that to happen, we may see something expand. But I mean, the USC offense is too explosive for this Notre Dame defense that he just has to really keep up, or at least show that he's taking it down the field and, turnover, field goal, stuff like that. But Hartman needs to show up here.
Right.
Yeah, this game is a game. This is the reason why Notre Dame went and grabbed Sam Hartman for games like this. And Vegas has them as a 3-point favorite. It's probably a push because usually the home team gets 3 points. But this is the kind of game that Sam Hartman needs to step up. He needs to play the way he's been playing, and he needs to bring that receiving group up. And he hasn't really been able to do that so far. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. Obviously with that run game, you want to get that going, but Sam Hartman needs to play his big and best game. And it's going to be a pretty big game. All eyes are going to be on it. It's going to be on, NBC. And, Caleb Williams is going to be coming in, with the bevy of wide receivers they have, and hopefully they'll use Marshawn Lloyd in the run game.
And you have really Hartman's kind of almost been flawless up until last week, right? until last week he threw 3 interceptions, which is what he threw all season. But 2 of those were bad plays, and the other one it could have been either way. But it's like he can't be making these simple mistakes, especially with a what's the word I'm looking for? A defense that you can allow it. A defense that like they're not really forcing these turnovers. They're not really doing anything big. It's just they have Caleb Williams on the other side. So this is he could take control of it, and if they can get up and play from behind, maybe that's the key to success.
Yeah, Southern Cal doesn't have a very good defense, but at the same time, I don't think Notre Dame has enough offensive weapons to exploit that defense. You look at their wide receivers and their pass catchers, they don't really inspire a whole lot of excitement, I guess. Jaden Thomas is nothing special, and I don't think Great House is all that great either. But then you got, Tyree can be explosive if they can get him the ball in space. They've just had trouble doing that so far this season. Our next game, we got Miami at North Carolina. This has to be a game that Miami shows up for, right? They had a horrific loss this past weekend. This is a game I think that's going to define the rest of their season. They either show up for it or they pack it in and they just kind of die off. I think Tyler Van Dyke has played well. He's got Restrepo, he's got Kobe Young, and then on the other side, North Carolina, obviously Drake May, Amarian Hampton's had a solid season, but they also got Devontae Walker back. So this is a game where there's a couple players who are looking to really put their stamp on it. Devontae Walker, especially. Miami as a team needs to come out and show that they have some mental toughness here.
Yeah, this week, we're going to talk about players, but, it's going to be how did Cristobal go throughout this week talking to his team? How did he go in there and be like, look, did he even go in there and say, hey, the last game was on me? Because when the defense came back on the field after last week's game, they kind of gave up. I mean, it just looked like they played their coverage right, but then they're like, he's open. We're just gonna let him be. Like I didn't see the energy. So this week turnaround is gonna be huge, especially against a Drake May, a guy that people are saying is the QB2 of this class, right? So this is an opportunity for them to go out there and do some great things, and it's gonna rely on this Miami defense to kind of shut down May for what they can. I think he has a great arm. He can lay it on the money. Having Tez Walker back is a big push for him as well. So Van Dyke, this is a statement game for kind of Van Dyke to say, hey, I deserve to be in the talk, not necessarily for your top tier quarterbacks, but I deserve to be in this tier 2 category of this class to say, hey, I can go out there and win a big game, especially after last week's defeat. This is a turnaround. It's going to hurt Miami even more losing 2 back-to-back than what it would UNC losing the first one to Miami.
With this game, I mean, it could go one of two ways. It could be like a 6-3, struggle where Miami comes out and fights and shows heart, or it could easily be 17-0 at the end of the first quarter. And if I'm betting on it, I'm betting 17-0 North Carolina. I don't see how Miami recovers from last week. I mean, these are kids that played their hearts out and their coach let them down. There's no other way to say it. And I mean, with Tyler Van Dyke and all his receiving core, they're gonna put up stats, but at the end of the day, North Carolina I think just has too much for them.
Yeah, SC talking about that whenever Miami's defense came out on the field there, I just think that they were shell shocked. They didn't know what happened. They were in that mode. Hey, this game's over with. Let's just kind of get off the field and go back into the locker room. And then they had to go back out. Then they had to go back out onto the field. So I think that they were kind of shell shocked with that. But yeah, I mean, this weekend's going to show a lot about their mental fortitude, I think.
Yeah.
All right, our last game that we're wanting to talk about tonight is UCLA at Oregon State. Both of these teams struggle on the offensive side. Um, I think they both want to run the ball, but neither team likes pushing it downfield vertically. UCLA having to rely on a freshman quarterback. No matter how good he is, he's still a freshman quarterback. He makes a lot of mistakes. And then Oregon State with DJ Uiagalelei, they don't really have those outside weapons for him. So it just seems like to me this is going to be a very low scoring game that they're going to rely on their running backs, Carson Steele and TJ Harden for the Bruins, and then Damian Martinez for Oregon State.
Yeah, I think UCLA has a defensive end, Layatu Latu, who knows how to bring the pressure. So that's going to be big for DJ if he's going to cause enough pressure to allow DJ to just fold. It's going to be a big game for Silas Bolden. I think this is an opportunity for him to go out there and be like, hey, I am a good receiver, and I should be one guy that you're mentioning and talking about, especially if you have these linebackers in the UCLA side shutting down Damian Martinez. Like you mentioned, it is a run style team, but they can be shut down. We have seen that. And if that happens and it does have to become a passing game, we're going to need to see a big game from Silas Bolden on the Oregon State side, because that may be their only option when it comes to moving anything down the field.
So for the Pac-12, for me, the two best defenses are Utah and Oregon State. 3 weeks ago, UCLA versus Utah, I thought they had a horrible game plan for Dante Moore, and it was not a smart plan. They had Dante Moore, run plays that are time developing plays, and you can't do that against Utah. So I want to see how they come out against Oregon State. Do they call for quick timing passes to get Dante Moore in rhythm, or do they establish the run and help take pressure off? Because that game against Utah, Dante Moore looked lost, and that's probably the only time I've ever seen him lost. So I want to see if that coaching staff is better prepared and to set him up in a better position. And then in that second half to finally let go of those bombs for J. Michael Sturdivant, as the defenses are tired, if they're going to run Carson Steele and TJ Harden. And then for Oregon State, it goes through Damian Martinez. So like SC was saying, is UCLA going to be able to shut them down, or is Damian Martinez going to run all day long against that defense?
Yeah, I got you. All right, guys, let's go and wrap this up for tonight. SC and Andy, go and tell us where we're able to find you, and then we'll get to watching some football for the weekend.
Yeah, so on X at the PPR, so doing some daily threads on there. We got, Sunday we're talking about quarterback learnings from college football the following week, or this week, I guess. Monday, the running backs. Tuesday, wide receivers. And then Wednesday, IDP. Gonna drop my rankings on the thread here soon, 11 through 20 per position. And then Friday, do a thread just some different content creators that you should be following, because they give me some good insight every Tuesday and Thursday with y'all, of course, and then my IDP start sit articles on RPO football every Thursday for the NFL side.
You got a little bit of a news today, didn't you? Aren't you starting to write a little bit of Devy content?
For league winners, they asked, they needed something for a minimum of 1 month, so I'm trying it out to see what my Devy content for writing is like. But yeah, on league winners, we're with them as well.
And then you can find me at Andy_fam1. I do 3 articles a week, have a player profile coming out. That is on TCU running back Amani Bailey. And then at the end of the week, we do a Devy and C2C games to watch. And then every Monday, we do a stock up, stock down for Devy players and C2C names to watch.
Yeah, the Bailey article came out today, or came out this evening. I was able to get it posted today. And then tomorrow, I want to say, 11 o'clock, something like that tomorrow. Tomorrow morning is your weekend preview. But that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I'm Tommy Harvey for SC Romero and Andy Pham. Hope you all enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday.